2023 season is hotting up, and it seems like every day there's something to talk about. But I feel like maybe it's fitting to talk about Favour Ofili. Right now, I think she's on the verge of doing something special. My only concern is that when you run this long season in college, may not be in great shape at the World Championship. But your thoughts on her 2023 season? She's world leading in 22:36 for the time being.
Yeah, Favour is an immense talent. We saw that last season when she went neck and neck with Abby Steiner. Steiner bringing her own experience to beat her at the NCAA Outdoor Championships and also at the Indoor Championships too. But at the Sex Championship, she beat Steiner. She also became the first athlete to run sub 22 in the history of college before Steiner had to lower that to again in one of our races last year. So there was a back and forth with regards to our decision to whether to go professional after the World Championships. But our coach, Denis Shaver, convinced her to stay one more year. And I'm in conversations with him, and you could see some of the dividends it's been yielding at this point in time. The progression is just really massive for her. Broken the indoor Nigerian record last week, as well as the African record to 22:36, second all-time in NCAA history, facility record. It's going to go lower than I can guarantee you that, especially going into the indoor NCAA indoor championships itself. Probably see her running 22-2. Definitely will be another threshold for her to reach. But our potential is limitless. My only fear, like she did last season, was the fact that she's going to ramp up a whole lot of races, both indoors and outdoors. And when it's time to show up at the main events, she might seem fatigued or look spent, and it might cost her a whole lot. Like we saw during the World Championship in Oregon, which she crashed out from the semifinals. She picked up a medal for herself in the Commonwealth Games in Birmingham, but that was not as stiff compared to what we have at the World Championships. Nigeria needed at the World Championships. After Tobi Amusan as well as Ese Brume, she's the flagship athlete for Nigeria in terms of sprinting now. We're ahead of Rosemary Chukwuma as well as Favour Ofili. She competed for Nigeria at the age of 16. That was in 2019 when she made her debut at the World Championships too. So it's been a steady progression for her. And this year in college would also see her finally refine the potential that she has before she turned professionally, most likely at the end of the season.
You mentioned that you spoke to the coach and they had to think about whether she should go pro. So is there a sentiment from your conversations with the coach that the preparation for this year in particular will allow her to be competitive come August when the World Championships are held in Budapest?
Okay, it's dicey because his job as the coach is of LSU, that's the Louisiana State University, the school that Favour runs for, is to ensure that Favour competes favorably for LSU and win medals for them. He's not obligated to ensure that she's competing well for Nigeria, and that's the downside to send your athletes into the United States. So he wants her to win gold at the NCAA Outdoor Championships as well as the Indoor Championship, potentially over the 60 meters, which almost is unrealistic, but over the 200 meters and in the 100 and 200 meters outdoors this year. That is his priority. Even though he would not come out and say it, but you get that feeling. It's now left for the athletes rep based in the United States representing Nigeria to ensure that he puts her in the right condition to still put her in pristine shape ahead of the World Championship itself. Some of these top athletes save their body for this major championship, and that's where it really matters. You can say she's still young, she's still got a lot of races, but you can't rack up 60 plus races last year and do almost probably 40, 45 more this year leading up to a major championship. Your body will be burnt out. It's just reality. So I don't know how he wants to manage her, but his priority obviously is to ensure that she wins a gold for LSU this year.
No, yeah, I agree with that. And I think, I would hope that we get to see a somewhat fresh, because you can never be fresh after an extremely long U.S. college circuit. But I think she's a superb talent. And yeah, you want to see her transition. And I think part of the saving grace, I think if they can manage her, from my estimation, is that it shouldn't be problematic to make that Nigeria team. So if they can get some rest, some downtime, and get it back again for late mid-August, then I think she might be able to at least be competitive at the World Championships. I mean, the 200 meters at the World Championships is probably going to be ultra smashing, and I think getting into the final would probably be a big deal this year. Yeah.
Yeah, she would need to run a step 22 certainly to get to the final. And she's capable of doing that. She's way capable of it.
Yeah, I think so. I think if they manage her well, you should at least hope that she can get to 21.7 this year. I might be pushing it, but if she can consistently run around 21.8, then I think she might have a shot of making it into the final. And you never know, right? Yeah.
If I'm to go ahead and make a prediction, I think even before the NCAA outdoors, she'll run a 21.8. But that's my fear. She's still young. She's still upcoming. And she doesn't know how to manage her races. And that's where being a professional athlete differs from being an amateur athlete. Because you're not running for money. You're just running based on pure natural talent. You have a coach, and the coach wants you to run as fast as you can and to win medals for the school. But we both know that as a professional athlete, you have to be able to manage your races. And the World Championship is where you need to bring it to the fore. I mean, you're mostly not under pressure in races outside the World Championships. But during the World Championship itself, can you bring those experience and some of your best qualities to the fore? It's also kind of affected China last season. We know on paper, going into the World Championships, she will add the fastest time. She ran a 21.7. I think even good leading to the United States outdoors. So certainly what happened during the championship itself, it obviously means that she was pretty tired and she couldn't compete with Nelly Thompson,
Shelly-Ann, Shericka Jackson.
Shericka Jackson. She couldn't compete with them because these guys had managed their races in the 6-7 months prior to that. So it's a two-way street where you can't eat your cake and have it, but you can find a middle ground. And so Nigeria will just be optimistic that she doesn't run too many races this year and she's able to bring her A game during the World Championship in Budapest.
Yeah. Now, speaking on that, and let's stick on Nigeria a little bit. We have a lot to talk about Nigeria as well. Speaking of that, as you know, many top athletes haven't, showed their head yet. We haven't seen them, and that might be for good reason. So, any word on Tobi? When is Tobi Aumsan coming out? Are they thinking about just, managing her until later in the season?
Not so much on Tobi, but I would assume she's the number one athlete in the world now in her event. So they are chasing her. She doesn't chase anybody. She will skip the indoor season. That is almost a certainty. She'll run a couple of Diamond League races when Diamond League starts. I mean, I will assume she'll probably even make one or two appearances in the low-key meet in the United States. That's usually how she starts a season. One in Texas, I think. If she runs one or two other ones, then she probably opens up in Doha in May, the first Diamond League of the season. And she probably runs a couple, and she wouldn't run much races this year. She would also try and probably avoid any competition with Jasmine Camacho Quinn. And obviously, she has the first port of refusal as the born athlete in her event and the world record holder. So she's well sought after. Now it's now left for the chasing part. Kenny Harrison, Camacho Quinn,
Brittany Anderson.
It's to chase her. So she has the A game now. I mean, she's not chasing the money. She's got endorsements. She's got sponsorship now coming through from the world record. So going to this meet alone just gives her $15K. So she doesn't really need to prove anything to anybody. Her whole aim for this season is to go to Budapest and defend the title. And if it is reducing the amount of races she runs, I think that's the line she will toe.
Yeah. No, I mean, the one thing I will say about the women is that they don't fear each other. They always show up. They don't dance around that much like the men who avoid each other and so on. So women show up and they bring it. But I think,
So I ask you, how many times pre World Championship did we see Shelly-Ann and Elaine Thompson race?
Well, that's a good question. We didn't see that, but that's I mean, we saw a lot with Shericka Jackson, right? Like a few
Because she was
times.
chasing both of them, so she had to prove
Right.
herself.
Yeah.
Shericka had to prove herself.
Yeah.
She was chasing. So you would most likely see a Tobi versus a Kenny Harrison, a Jasmine versus a Kenny Harrison. Kenny is chasing both of them now, but you most likely not see more than 2 races between Tobi and Jasmine before the World Championships. Maximum 2.
Right.
I'll probably stick my money and say you probably just see them once.
Yeah. And you have to think, I mean, Camacho Quinn, she's a serious athlete. Like even with the injuries and setbacks, still manages to get on the podium. I'm very impressed with Brittany Anderson. I saw her open up a couple of weeks ago on indoor. I'm a little bit surprised on that as well, but we'll see. I mean, I think
Megan Tapper too.
Yeah, there's Megan. I saw something there. Yeah, look, women's hurdles is probably 100-meter hurdles. Probably going to be the most exciting thing at World Championships. A little bit early to say that, but it's one of the marquee things to watch, I think.
Yeah, definitely be the most exciting. It's so many uncertainties that can happen.
Yeah.
And Tobi knows that there's a huge target on her back. She knows that. Jasmine is absolutely livid. She felt she deserved the world record ahead of Tobi. She had even predicted it after the Tokyo Games. So it's a mission this year, and I'm going to go all out and say Tobi's going to find it difficult. I can tell you that for a fact. She's going to find it difficult. She needs to run 12-2, 12-3 consistently. I mean, 12-2, not even 12-3, 12-2 consistently if she has any chance of defending a title.
No, I agree with you. I think there's going to be a bunch of women in that 12-2 range, and if you don't bring it, then I mean, it's funny that we're at this stage where if you run a 12-5 in a semifinal, you may not make it into the final, and I guess that's the level.
That's the beauty of the sport now.
Yeah, if we get the right conditions, I think if all women are doing what we anticipate them to do, then probably the world record goes again, and I can't be mad at that, right? Let's just finish with Nigeria, and we may be able to come back with it. You know, there's always a lot of stuff happening there too. I saw you had an article, was it last week, on Divine? I mean, we saw that he got caught up in the Eric Lira scandal and the Blessing Akabari thing, and he's provisionally suspended. And I think, I mean, when I read your article, I think your sentiment was that, you know, this is probably the end of what could have been a promising career. And I don't know if you want to say anything on that.
The bad news fly bigger than the good news. We know how Nigerian athletes are doing well for themselves in college, and I'm pretty optimistic about that. This was just a taint in what has been a growing phase or a meteoric rise of Nigerian track and field. At the Commonwealth Games, it's kind of heralded a new era for Nigerian track and field alongside Tobi Amusan's record, which kind of ignited Nigeria's passion for the sport. Top 3, it's football, basketball, athletics, or probably football, athletics, basketball, and that order in Nigeria. And we have a deep passion for the sport. So I can tell you for free that it wasn't really met with so much pessimism from the Nigerian sporting circle. A lot of person saw it coming, but we're more fixated on the positives. I mean, every single weekend, it's a record being broken here or there. If it's Favour Ofili, it's not Favour Ofili, it's Favour Ashe, it's Ruth Soro and the long and triple jump. So we're much more fixated on that. There's also been the feeling that Divine's time had come and gone, right even before it started, right from the Olympic Games. So Nigerians don't go into any major championship optimistic that it will do anything special. So we're a bit sad about placing Okagbari, but this is 1 year down the line, and we've moved on from it.
Right, and I wanted to bring it up too because we have to talk about everything, but recently I've been seeing, if we just kind of glance on track and field social media, there is the sentiment as if we're not surprised if it's Nigeria, which I think is somewhat harsh because if we're being honest with ourselves, every country has problematic situations with drugs, and we want a clean sport, and the biggest problem with drugs in track and field is that for the outsider in particular, it's as if everybody's on drugs. That's always the sentiment. And every time you try to clean the sport up or make it or improve upon on those things, you know, one or two cases can always create a lot of doubt, and the narrative shifts in a negative one. And I wanted you to kind of address that, because I think for all we've seen with some of the negative impact from a few athletes coming out of Nigeria based in the United States, we've seen a tremendous amount of youngsters. And even if we go back to the World Junior Championships last August, you know, there is optimism that, you know, a new generation could be coming up, and Nigerian athletics is in a space of growth to look forward for the next, I guess, couple cycles to come.
Yeah, absolutely. We've got a new wave of opportunities through the college system in the United States. Many upcoming track and field stars are looking to toe that route. They know it's safe for them. They know it also maximizes their talent, and they're in the best environment to help polish that talent and develop the talent after being discovered by most of our youth competitions that we've got all over the country in Nigeria. So you see that glut of Nigerian athletes compared to 3-4 years ago in college in the United States, both at Division 1, Division 2 schools. You certainly find a whole lot of Nigerian athletes, and the competition is now much more plenty, and it's put us in a position of being spoiled for choice. And like Jamaica has done with its school champs, where college coaches go there and pick some of the best stars, the same thing is happening to Nigeria, where we are getting coaches from the United States school system come over to Nigeria and come over to the national championships, also a couple of events, to look for the next star, to look for the next Tobi Amusan, to look for the next Divine, to look for the next Favour Ofili, because they know it's a gold mine, and they just have to take them and polish them. So that's what we would see. It's that wave, and Nigeria is just left to discover them. And that's just all we need to do at this point in time. So we've outsourced the development stage to the United States, and there's nothing entirely bad with it. It's just a reality that we're a developing nation. So we cannot fix these athletes or put them at the level to compete with their counterparts, even though they are probably more talented than their counterparts outside of the country.
Yeah, I guess a lot of flights to our Delta State.
Definitely. I mean, that's the home. But I can tell you for free that maybe because the association is also controlled by people from that state, you get a feeling that they put so much emphasis on it. But trust me, I mean, the region where Tobi Amusan came from, Olusoji Fashiba, the former African record holder, and Jeremy comes from that region. There's been a couple of athletes, Damola Osayomi, Deji Aliu, the indoor record holder in 60 meters, comes from there. Down east, where Rosa comes from, Rosemary Chukuma also comes from down east too. So it's spread across the southern part of Nigeria. It's not like Delta State, it's just that they've got more, and they have competitions that bring out their athletes too. So, but it's spread across the southern part of Nigeria, where we've got so many talents in track and field, so many. I mean, over the years or in time past, there's what we usually call inter-house sports or inter-school sports, where track and field is the main attraction, and Nigerians participated in it a lot. But because most of these other regions have not taken it so serious, only Delta State, you get to see more of them from Delta State. So even outside the school system, they organize, as I'm telling you now, they're organizing another competition just to discover more talents for themselves. That is making of champions. We're looking to also organize competitions, calling it school champs. We've discovered athletes in some of these other regions before in some of our initiatives, athletics trials, just to ensure that we discover them. So those were the likes of, and that's where we got the likes of Favour Ofili, the current fastest man in Nigeria. He participated in such of those trials. Favour Ofili, Road to Sorrow, Godson Brume, the younger brother of Ese Brume, he's in LSU too. Inteo Malbong, they've all competed in these trials. So the idea is organize them, you would find talented ones. It's now ensuring that you find them and develop them. But we cannot do the development. What the times Favour actually ran, or the times Favour Ofili is running now, if she was in Nigeria, I can tell you for free that she would not be running those times, because up until February now, we've not had any competition in Nigeria in track and field. But in US, she's already run 5-6 times already, and this is February. And I can tell you for free that we will not have any competition up until April in Nigeria. So obviously, the more competition, the more things for the coaches to see, to work on, the more it helps and develop the athletes. So that's the situation of what we've got now.
Yeah, for sure. It seems like as we've talked about this and we'll revisit it at some time, the kind of development that needs to happen in Nigeria to further get the athletes along and even potentially incentivize them to come back home and train. But staying in Africa, maybe let's go to East Africa. This week I saw Ferdinand Omanyala, and I had to watch that 60-meter race against the Olympic champion and also Cisse, and I was saying to myself, something looks different, because he ran last week. Was it last week? And I said, ooh, he looks good. But he comes back here and there's a lot in the tank. Your thoughts on that 60 meters? Were you impressed by that? Because it's as if he didn't even get the best start. But yeah, your thoughts on that 60 meters?
Was I impressed? Yes and no. Ferdinand is a very good talent. He is, no doubt about that. But how will I explain it? It does so much that it doesn't need to do so much. Now, where I'm driving at is, and I'm saying this from a knowledgeable point of view, because I know his management team, and I know that he's not getting the best of management, and that's because they don't know the depth of athletics on how it should be run. So Ferdinand also is, although he's not a startup definitely, but he started his career rising, and they started managing to what trying to rise to again. And where I'm going with this is because, and why I said I'm not so impressed is because he doesn't need to run so many races. Ferdinand has run about 4 or 5 races indoors already. I think he already capped his indoor season with that performance, 6.54. So you run 1 or 2 and you test yourself and see how far you can go. But you're also being tempted to think that he's also doing this thing for the financial gains. And that's because his career didn't kick off when it was pretty early. He kicked off mid-20s and he's trying to maximize or make the most out of it. But that said, I was also impressed because you're taking on the Olympic champion, who is also the world indoor champion. I mean, forget the fact that he's trying to recuperate and come back from injury. I mean, that fear that he's the Olympic champion, world indoor champion, would still be there, and he was able to take him down. So that confidence alone puts him in the right trajectory going into his outdoor season. 6.54. I'm not so impressed again with the time, because you have to juxtapose both of them. I mean, just a week ago, we saw Brummel doing a 6.42. Right. This same Brummel that went over to Nairobi and beat Omanyala. That was about 2 seasons ago, when he set the African record of 9.77. Then Nairobi, even though it was an altitude. So I mean, Favour Ofili has run a 6.53 in college this year, and so Favour Ofili is it's not the fastest African. That goes to Ismail Kone, who runs for, I think, Florida State. But most of these times are not being ratified by the World Athletics. We know the reason for that. So again, I think you mentioned it in discussion last week. But I mean, there are guys in Africa that run faster than him. So it just tells you that he is not the ultimate indoor runner. So the motive for doing it is different from the motive of, say, Lyles doing it. We know Lyles is trying to work on his stats. He's trying to ensure that he closes that gap between himself and Brummel and Coleman and Fred Kerley. So you ask, well, why is it Fred Kerley not running the indoor season? He could have done it, but it doesn't really mean much to him. So I'm asking myself, why is Omanyala doing it? I mean, Simbine is somewhere walking and training his socks off to gain back his title in South Africa. Fine, he's got a couple of competitions coming through, but his priority is the outdoor season. His priority is the World Championships. The only reason Marcel Jacobs is running this indoor season, or he's running a couple of races, is to ensure that he gets past his fitness ahead of the outdoor season. So it is the motive that matters for me. It's than the result itself. And I know the motive for Omanyala. And I honestly don't fault him for that. I just hope he doesn't come back and haunt him in the outdoor season when it actually really matters the most.
Yeah. No, that's a good point. Yeah, I didn't really think about it that way because I was just saying, yeah, he's out there, but I do understand what you're saying, and it's not like, yeah, it's not like he's particularly gaining much from running that many races in the indoor season, you know. And last year he had some kind of an explanation of getting the what was it, the visa to get into the United States pretty late. So by the time he showed up at the World Championships, there's no way he could have delivered his best. And I don't know if he wanted to get some of that running in early, but there's a World Championships later this year, and you know you want to be in tip-top shape because a lot of people are gunning for that position. Since we're on the kind of transitioning into 60 to 100 meters, I don't know if you saw earlier today, but Micheal Norman is saying he's stepping down to the 100 meters. Did you see this?
Yeah, I saw it, but I didn't read the story fully. And I'll be surprised, really, because I think I was writing about Laos a couple of weeks back. I called it, we're seeing it now, 2.0. 2.0 in the sense that he knows if it's to be mentioned in the same breath as the Usain Bolt or the Ewan Blake, he needs to find his form in the 100 meters. And the best way to find his form in 100 meters is to work on the start. And he's working on the start by participating in the 60 meters. And we can see that his PB dropped drastically to 6.51 when he narrowly beats Trevor Brummel. So you probably put those margins together and you are saying he can easily run a 9.7. His PB in the 100 meters is a 9.86. But the competition for the US men's 100 meters is off the roof. That's the Mafo Brazy, that's running 9.7. That's the world champion, Fred Kerley. Christian Coleman, who's running 9.7, who's looking to come bounce back. There's who else is there again? I know there are about 4 or 5 athletes in that same breath. Now, there's also a Laos too. So you're asking yourself, can Norman beat his chest and say he would run a 9.7? It's almost impossible. He's not an Steiner. He's not the most versatile of athletes. Now, hindsight says Fred Kerley has done it. Why can't he do it? But some of the things I feel made Kerley special is because it wasn't that special in the 400. It was good. It was above average, but it wasn't that special. And that's because he wasn't special. I mean, if you go back and check some of his Diamond League races from 2018, 2019, you see him run.
He had that fantastic NCAA race with was it with that college year? I remember with
it was with Norman.
Norman was Norman. Yeah, it was Norman.
Was it Norman? It was Norman. I recall pushing up some story and I checked the head-to-head, and the head-to-head started way back in 2017 or 2016 when they were in college. It wasn't really special in college, but this is someone that it is hard work than more than talent, and he knew that if he put in the work, he was going to be good at it. And you could see his 400-meter races, and you realize he was tilting more towards a 200-meter runner and a 100-meter runner because he didn't really have that endurance, the speed endurance that a Norman has, that a Stephen Gardner had. So I can tell you for free that if you put him side by side with the Gardner that I'm talking about, Fred Kerley now, he would not beat him over 400 meters. If you put Fred Kerley over a Laos in the 200 meters, he will not beat a Laos over the 200 meters. So he found his niche and he has perfected it over the 100. Same thing with Norman. Can Norman match a Fred Kerley over the 100? I don't think so. Can he match a Marvin Bracy? I don't think so. Can he match a Laos in the 200? Yes, he can. He can even, in fact, beat him in one of the I think I can't recall the race in April last year where he beat him. Was it Laos? No, sorry, he beats Kerley. Sorry, not Laos, because Laos was
Kerley wasn't. Yeah.
It was Kerley he beat in April last year over the 200 meters. So he's a pretty fantastic 200 meter runner, a much more better 400 meter runner because he's got the speed endurance. Now he's not the 100 meter runner. He is not. It might prove me wrong, but I seriously doubt it.
Yeah, what is it? Is this PB 986? I have to check. I mean, I should check this. We can check this before we put it up. But what is surprising to me is a couple of things. So Norman finally wins. He wins the world championship. Are people scared of the 400 meters? What is going on? I mean, I saw Stephen Gardner is back, because he's out last year with an injury. He ran a, what was it, a 32 over 300 meters. He looks fantastic. And my thing is that if Stephen Gardner is at his best, no one beats him over 400. That's how I think about it. But
Yeah.
and so Norman has the world championship. He hasn't cemented himself yet to, I believe, to connect with the level of talent, right? And I think this is probably a larger 400 meter issue, because we still go back and I still say, when you think about the greatest 400 meter runner ever, Michael Johnson, when you look at his times and his consistency on the sub 44 or even sub 43 5-ish, he's run it so many times. He's collected all of those medals. And all of these other guys who come in the space, maybe get injured a lot, or they just or they fall out of favor with the training. And I'm not quite sure what is happening at the 100 meters, why everybody feels like they should be running to get down to that level. I just don't understand it.
Yeah, I think it's hard to keep your consistency over the 400 meters. And that's because in my opinion, I never ran track, well, not professionally. I think it's the most difficult race to run in all of track, both short and long distance. And that's because you need speed and endurance. And to keep up with that level of training for, say, 10 years, it's mentally draining compared to the 100 and 200, where you just need a lot of speed work to work on and your start to itself. But as difficult as it is, there's also positive to the race, the fact that you can make a mistake and still amend it during your race itself. You can't do that in your meters. So you have to pick your devil and the ones you want. But you also have to understand that the goal of all of this thing is to ensure you dominate a particular event, win gold medals at World Championships and Olympic Games, and get as much sponsorship as you can by becoming the top person in your event. So I would assume these are some of the things he has considered, and he's thinking to himself, okay, I can challenge some of the status quo over the 100 meters. But it just doesn't make rational sense, really. But I'll be really happy for him to prove me wrong.
Yeah, I want to see it. I guess the United States will take 4 to the World Championships because Kerley has the bye, and so everyone thinks they can meddle around. Noah Niles seems like he wants to go for it, and I think he can spend all of that summer thinking about it because he has the bye in the 200 meters. But can he double at the World Championships? It's not something he has done, so I don't know. Lyles is special, but if he wants to take the 200 meter, if he wants a shot at getting closer to the 200 meter world record, which is way out there, I still think. I don't know if doubling at a World Championships will help. I think, I don't know. Your thoughts on that? Yeah.
That's Coleman.
No, I meant like Noah Lyles. So Lyles is in the mix of trying to say he wants to double, right? Fortunately, he has the bye at the World Championship, so he doesn't have to focus on the 200 meters. So he can put his efforts into trying to make the U.S. team over 100 meters. But can he run? Say he were to make the U.S. team at 100 meters, can he then turn around and still perform at a level that will get him closer to a 1920 or so in the 200 meters at the World Championships? I think he will win easily the 200 meters, but after rounds in the 100 meters, can he then go and make a real assault on the world record?
Yeah, he can. I think that's why he's running the indoor 60. But it's difficult. Some of the few people have pulled it off. The very few people have pulled it off. Usain Bolt was at another level. And we were just talking about it. Was it last week where he was running 4 rounds, breaking world records at that level? And I think Lyles also wants to do that. He sees himself, I think he sees himself at that level of Usain Bolt. Well, we both know that it's almost difficult to match that sort of talent level, but that's by the wayside. I think he can run a 19.2 for the 200 meters if he focuses attention on it. But if he gets distracted over the 100, he might not be able to execute that. He might not.
Yeah, I know. I think, I mean, I don't want to sound apologetic if he ever gets to that level. And, you know, we were saying we're hating on Noah Lyles, because I'm not. I think he's a fantastic talent. I also, he has this bravado that the sport needs. He doesn't transcend the sport as a Bolt, but Bolt is a once in a lifetime athlete. But yeah, we still have to remember 4 rounds of the 100 meters, then he runs the rounds of the 200 meters, and he destroys the world record. And I don't think any athlete on the planet has that capability. Can you break the world record on a one-off? Can you go to Lausanne on a warm night in the summer and run 19.2? Sure you can. But, to do that in a major championships when all the pressure is there, I have to see it. And not only, from my calculation, I've said this a lot, like the record is important, but it's the consistency, right? Like, to be the greatest 200-meter runner ever, that I don't really know if you can do that, right? You have to then give me a three-peat at the Olympics over 200 meters and never lose a 200 meters, since 2009 at the World Championships, all the way back up to 2015. You can't do that. Like, you don't have enough time on the planet to do that, right? So it's not going to happen. And maybe Aaron Knightington can come at some point, but you're not eclipsing that kind of thing. No one is doing that. Maybe Knightington, if he can start winning this year and then win in Paris and come back. But Bolt put this thing way out there for a reason,
The way you said it, I get you. On face value, when we think of what Bolt did, it looks not easy, but it looked like it made it look easy. But in reality,
it wasn't.
It's impossible. I don't want to use easy. It's impossible because this was someone that, despite him reaching his peak, and I think Lyles has reached his peak. Not when I mean Lyles has reached his peak. Not so. Let's use Bolt for example. Bolt kind of reached his peak at the World Championship in Berlin in 2009, and he had to now try and maintain that peak, which was one of the reasons Blake came and kept him under pressure in 2011, 2012, before he was not able to reignite that. Even still, he was still able to run a 9.63 and 19.4 and 19.3 at that level. He was not able to reach the 1919 as well as the 19.5 region in which he reached his peak. So I think for Lyles, he reached his peak last year in the 200 meters. I don't think he can reach a new level. The only reason that will make him reach a new level is if Area 19 pushes him to yet another level. So 19 comes and does a 19.35 or 19.6. He knows, for me to defend my title, I have to run 19.2. So it's the same way Blake literally pushed Bolt. He has to push that. But if it's terms of self-motivation, I don't see me running a 9.6 in the 100. I don't see me running a 19.2 if it's just self-motivation. And that's because he has reached his peak. And I wouldn't say he knows that, but for him to be able to maintain that level or go higher than that peak, someone has to push him. The person that can push him is a Reuniting, maybe a Letsile Tebogo, who we know are also special talents by their own right. But I think he's going to do something special this season, but definitely not over 100 and 200 meters. It has to be over the 200 meters.
No, you're right, and you speak of Tebogo, which I think that guy is fantastic. It's just that they're in a different kind of cycle. So by the time his cycle starts to come in, maybe Lyles is moving in a different direction. We don't know, right? You have to be there at the same moment to really consistently push an athlete. But yeah, we'll see. I mean, I'm waiting to see. Are you excited by Gardner before we leave this thing? It was a 32.58. I had to check, and he looked good. I watched the race, and
Gardner is one of the most underrated sprinters on the circuit. One of the most underrated.
That's fact.
Before he got into last season, he was undefeated, I think, for like 3-4 years. Over the 400 meters. It gives me that vibe and consistency of the Grenadian, Kirani James. Yeah. It gives me that consistency, and he's supremely good. So nobody's touching him over the 400 meters this year. I mean, that 32 was a wonder that I'm back to pristine shape. And when I start outdoors, maybe that's what's making Norman drop down to the 100. You never know.
Maybe, yeah, maybe that's the case. Yeah, yeah. We've been talking a lot about guys. I mean, we did talk a little bit about the women early, but uh, what about Femke Bol? I mean, I don't know what she's on right now, but this is ridiculous, right? She ran a 22 in 200 and sub 50. Went third on the all-time list or fourth on the all-time list, and then she backed it up with a meet record earlier this week again, 50 and change. Is she gonna run the flat? Like, can she compete on the flat?
I wrote about Femke also last week, and we were all fixated on Sydney doing the 400 flat and having to probably break the world record. But Femke dropping a sub 50 indoors last season, that is literally a 48 low outdoors for her to be able to do a 49 low indoors. So is she touching Sydney Mclaughlin's record? Definitely not. Despite how talented she is, I don't think she will touch Sydney Mclaughlin's 400 meter outdoors record. But over the 400 meters, I think she can take Sydney on. Sydney doesn't look interested in the 400 meters, and if she does that, I don't think she'll be untouchable. We know Shawnee is out for the year, so it is open. But we also know we've got the Marilyn Paulino there. She's pushed Shawnee to the limit last season and in the Olympics. There's Sawa Nasa returning, world champion from 2019. We don't know the sort of shape she'll be in, but I guess it's not something so in that 48 region. She'll probably start with 50, 51, or probably 51, then go down to 50 and maybe 49 low, but I don't see her running at 48. So I think she has a better chance. That's Femke Bol in the 400 meters. If she's to win a gold medal, can she take on Marilyn Paulino? I think she can, but she would have to decide early on which she wants to tackle. I had my reservations about Kerley in the 100 last season. It proved me wrong. It did prove me wrong because I felt they should have focused on the 200 meters instead of the 100, but it did prove me wrong, running a 9.7. So I think Femke can also easily do a 48, and with the 48, you definitely medal in the 400 meters for women.
Yeah, I think at this stage now, I mean, I don't know what they're doing with Femke, but I would say they've seen enough because right now, 22, sub 40, sub 50, you gotta keep it calm right now because the World Championships is way down in August now, and they've probably seen enough. And I don't know what they'll do, but they certainly should start thinking about this. But if she sticks to the 400 meter hurdles, 51 low. You think 51 low?
Yeah. It's difficult. It's difficult. I mean, we make this world record sound easy, but it's ultimately very difficult. And for someone like Sydney, we know that our world record wasn't just a walk in the park. It took a drain on her. I mean, we've seen Usain Bolt break the world record. We've seen Letsile break world records. And these guys make it look like they still had some things left in the tank. But for Sydney, I mean, when she broke it last year at the World Championships, when she lowered it at the World Championship, the first thing she did was she squatted. And she couldn't smile because she had taken every last drop of breath and blood to do that. And this is someone that is this talented. So for Femke, she would need to do more than that. Can she do it? I honestly doubt.
Yeah, we'll see. No, I agree. I mean, I just, I'm not in the business of telling athletes what to do, and certainly I would never tell Sydney what to do. And, she has one of the greatest coaches of all time, but I just feel like going to the 400 this year is a bit too early for me. I feel like hit another world championship, make sure you collect that medal, go to Paris, win that 400 meter hurdles. Once you do that, there's no question that I don't think the next person to eclipse you will be around. They haven't been born, right? But then think about the 400 meters. But athletes they change a lot these days. Yeah.
They do. They really do. But I'm looking forward to the competition. Femke, she's still young. She's just 22, I think. Well, Sydney is also pretty young too, and you get the feeling she hasn't reached her peak yet, with regards to us our running. So certainly she's going to run lower than her personal best this year over the hurdles, and she'll run a new personal best in the 400 meters this year. Certainly to come in the Diamond League.
Yeah, I agree, and I know athletes don't necessarily like the 400-meter hurdles, and I think back even to Melanie Walker from Jamaica that had the Olympic title, World Championship title, Olympic record at one point, and was pretty close, I think, to breaking the world record, but never liked the event, so switched out. But to stay on the 400-meter hurdles, we see Warlhom is back, and he ran what was it, a 45:52 for a meeting record recently. And, and it looks similar to the one he did on his home soil when he opened up a few weeks earlier. It looks like he's back and probably the man to beat. Dos Santos this year, it seems like, because he has some meniscus, a lateral meniscus tear. My only thing is that I really would like to see a fit Warlhom, a fit Dos Santos who came into his own last year, and a Rai Benjamin going at it, because I would love to see another sub 46. But your thought? Do you think Warlhom can get back to that?
No, it won't. It won't. Based on precedent, and I'll give you two reasons. Johan Blake and Wade van Niekerk. Those are the two reasons why I think Warlhom would not do a 45 again. That injury set him aback, and for an athlete that if sports that needs you to be in ultimate shape, for you to break records, injuries set you back. And to get back to that level, it will take something special. And I don't think we already have the sort of medical equipment to take it back to that level. So I'll take Bolt, for example. He didn't really have on-the-track injuries. It was more of motivation, right, more of his lifestyle. But remember, Johan with the hamstring in 2014, Van Niekerk, the rugby injury, and he has tried to come back to his best, but he can't.
He looked good last year.
Yeah, he looked good, but it was special in 2016. He was running 43. Yeah. He was untouchable. Johan was running. Johan didn't run a sub 10 or sub 9.9 up until last year. The last time he did that was in 2016 or 2015. So, and nothing, the person didn't change. If he tried every single thing, but injuries take a toll on you in athletics. It's not like football where it's the same team sport. It takes a toll on you because you need your body to be in ultimate shape. It's different from being banned from drugs where you have to come back. It's different. And once you have that threatening injury, especially hamstring, now be it a grade 2 or 3 hamstring injury, coming back is ultimately difficult. It is difficult.
Yeah. No, I agree with you. But yeah, I still have him as favorite. I think Rai Benjamin needs to look at this and say, this is my year. But, there's a mental thing too that we never really talked about. And I wonder if Rai thought he would have won last year on home soil and then Dos Santos came out. But talent-wise, I think Dos Santos has, may get in trouble to say this, but I think out of all three of them, I think Dos Santos may have more talent than all of them. But
yes,
we'll see.
Yeah, I agree with you totally. Yeah. He had proved that from his youth days. On the 18, on the 20, you could say it. Warlhom is more of determination, more of, and I try and say this loosely because you can't really, the nuances are pretty tiny. In terms of deciphering who is a better talent or who who has got that edge talent-wise. But you could see that Warlhom's races are determined a whole lot by extra work, determination, the tenacity. And if he's not in pristine shape, he will struggle to reach that. For Dos Santos, you could see his meteoric rise. He got to a new gear last year. I think he will get to another gear this year if he's also fit, and he can take down Warlhom's record. Yeah,
no, I think he's the man to do it. And let's hope the injury is not, it's just an injury that he can recover from and it doesn't cause any long-term thing. But I wanted to, we should have talked about this already. But what about Girma this week? Like, 7 minutes 23, 81? Oh, what is going on?
I was so excited. I was so excited.
It's like a full second off of the world record. I'm like, what the hell?
I was so excited for Girma, and for two reasons. I tipped him to be the one to defeat Sofiane El Bakkali in the triple chase last season, until prior to the after the World Championship or prior to World Championships, he had an injury and he couldn't compete. So coming back, and that's one of my biggest fears with athletes. Once you have that little injury setback, it takes you back a bit, and to get back to that shape is difficult. But to come back and run this world record indoors, taking Coleman's record of over 20 years away by almost a minute. That's almost a full second. It's outstanding on its own. So Sofiane Bakkali is also one of the athletes that's gone unbeaten in the last 2 years, and he should be wary of his record or his titles this year. So it's all shaping up towards a fantastic outdoor season. I'm looking forward to it keenly, because it's a sport where you tend to see one person dominate, because in terms of their talent level, they're a bit better. But once you have 2 or 3 people bringing competition into each event, it makes it much more interesting. Now, it's not left for World Athletics to now sell this event and tell us actually how it can give us more joy and also bring more publicity and bring more people to the sport itself. So for Girma, I was absolutely elated for him, and I know that he will do something special in the steeplechase this year.
No, I think so. I mean, I'm looking forward to it. I think, you touch on something that's like will take us forever to talk about. Like, how do you sell certain events in track and field that the ordinary public don't, they can't comprehend how ridiculously good that is, right? I think that's a long-term question, but no, I'm excited for it. It's just as how I'm excited for women's 800 meters, and I don't know if we were talking about this, but the fact that Athing pulled out of Milrose last week, I'm wondering if she's looking to the side of her eye, and she's wondering if Hodgkinson is in much better shape this year, and what will happen in 800 meters as the season progresses.
Yeah, I think so too. So I was thinking out loud this year, just a bit of a tangent with regards to what you just said now. And the indoor races, we don't have the typical 400, 800. We have the 300 indoors. And I saw a post with regards to Keely Hodgkinson, Athing Mu, Femke Bol, and Mclaughlin competing over 500 meters. Now, I know it's not the typical traditional
race
way we want the sport to go, and we know it's so much European eccentric, the sport. But let's take a cue from what is done in the NBA and what is done in NFL, bringing that showbiz to the sports and ensuring that it's televised and ensuring that people see the best of these athletes outside from their domineering form in their signature event. It brings a bit of thrill to it, because we could just keep on sounding like a broken record. We know it's going to be Keely versus Athing Mu in the 800. It's going to be Femke versus Sydney in the 400 hurdles. So what makes it different from last year? I know rivalries stoke up the sport, but once something is becoming so predictable, it takes the fun out of sport itself. The not knowing what will happen. We get to see a Federer versus a Nadal rivalry, and even though we know that anybody can win, it's also the fact that they're still going to entertain us. But going into this season, knowing full well that Sydney Mclaughlin will most likely defend that title. Going into the season, knowing fully well that Keely Hodgkinson will probably just push Athing to the limits in the 800 so again. So all of this being juxtaposed, and you wonder for Keely, she will do something special herself in the 800 this year, probably come close to Athing Mu again. We just talked about Femke herself, and it's the old same circle again. But we are hardcore fans. I love it. I still enjoy it.
So you want a 500-meter race with all 4?
I would love it. I would absolutely love it. I would pay for it to watch it. I honestly would pay for it.
If there's a 500-meter race, it's either, I think it's Sydney or Femke 1-2. I don't think Athing or.
I think Athing. we've seen Keely over 600.
Yeah.
And she did well.
And yeah, didn't she just break some 500-meter world record or whatever?
Yeah, Athing has a 49 seconds over the 400.
Yeah. Maybe
Sydney might not have the endurance for a 500.
You think? I mean,
the fact that we don't know makes it interesting, and we are hardcore fans of the sport.
Yeah.
But the fact that we know that the 800 meters will be between Athing and Keely is what doesn't make it special anymore. So we can make predictions for the 500, but I have tried to rack my brain around it, and I cannot tell you for a fact that it's Femke will win this or Athing will win this.
No, I mean, I would take it. I mean, like, I remember many years ago when they did the 150 meters with Michael Johnson and Donovan Bailey, and you know,
exactly.
I was much younger then. This is what, probably 96 or 97. Yeah, maybe shortly after Olympics. And shortly after the Atlanta Olympics. And I mean, unfortunately, Johnson didn't finish the race. But, you know, some people, if you're a purist, you think this is like nonsense. But the problem about being a purist in track and field is that it's only you and a handful of people who really understand the sport. Most people don't get to consume it on a day-to-day basis. And I think absolutely something like that might be necessary. That can work. I mean, a Diamond League can put that on. You know, it's probably an early season event, obviously, or a very late season event. But you know, I was initially saying it would be easier for the women who run the 400 meters and the 4 hurdles. But now that, you know, thinking about Athing's quality, it may not be as easy as I think. Yeah, but I just don't think. Tactically, it would have to be a very great race, because I think unless I assume the 800-meter women would have to go out hard, you know, because if it's a foot race, they don't have that. They just don't have that kind of speed. But I don't know. Yeah. I don't know.
It's less. I think it's less of speed and more of endurance. I'll say so. You need 40%. You need 40% of speed and 60% of endurance. And I think Sydney doesn't come out good in any of this in this permutation. Athing comes out good. Femke comes out good. Keely has probably more of endurance than speed.
Yeah.
So if I'm right. To make a prediction, I'm thinking Athing, Femke, and Sydney and Keely. You have to make my own prediction.
Either way, it would be a fantastic race. Someone, you know, New Balance get together with Nike or somebody, and they should do it as a shirt sponsor,
a footwear competition.
Yeah, footwear competition.
That's also another idea. Nike athletes versus Adidas athletes. New Balance versus Nike athletes.
Yeah, that would work.
It's the most competitive. It's the most competitive sport in the world, but we've not been able to market it to make it the most competitive.
Yeah.
Many things surrounds the sport, but it still boils down to the conservative nature of the Europeans and them controlling the sport, and they are not open to so many ideas.
Yeah, that is true. And then, with all due respect, when you have Sevco as the
So we know the Arab nations now are pumping money into sports, with golf, with basketball, with football. And they're not pumping anything in track and field. Formula 1, they're not pumping anything into track and field. They are not.
Yeah.
So it means that in terms of payment for athletes, it still remains pretty low. You'll probably be in the top. You have to be in the top 5 of your events to be able to make decent money, compared to every other stars in other sports. And I'm not even talking of team sports here. I'm talking of individual sports. Yeah. So you talk of golf, you talk of tennis, you talk of Formula 1, but track stars, they pale in comparison to. So we'll keep on saying
it's a poor person sport.
we say that because we decide not to evolve. And the thing with innovation is it will not be right all the time, but keep on trying. At the World Championship in 2019, they came with the camera angles with the athletes at the on the what they call it?
Yeah.
In Doha,
the start camp.
The start blocks. The start blocks. They didn't like it. You try new ones. I mean, Usain Bolt ran some exhibition races outdoors, and the fans came out and watched.
Yeah, I remember that 150. It was 150 in Manchester or so, right? Yeah, in a rainy day too.
Eliud Kipchoge did this Ineos 159 challenge. There are innovative ways to market the sport. So many ways. So until World Athletics realized that, I know it's a choked up calendar. I know there's so many events around the world, north of 2,000 every year. But I mean, you have to find a way of selling the sport. And the athletes will have to be the who would win eventually.
I agree. And, you know, even though the calendar is packed, it's not like it's packed in a situation where like loads of money are being doled out, right? It's not, right? So if you really
just mediocre events.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
So naturally, for events to make money, they have to have star athletes compete in that event. So it's for star athletes to compete there, you have to find innovative ways to ensure that people are glued to it. So the more people are glued to it, the more sponsors want to put their money in those events. It's the same reason sponsors put their money in the Ineos 159, because people will be glued to it. They want to see history being made. Now, assume that is a one-off, but we just add a couple of ideas now. Nike versus Adidas. You can tell me that if Nike and Adidas say their brands are up there with some of the athletes, other sponsors would not want to come in and put money there. So I'm not familiar with some of these athletes' shoe brands. So a Coleman raising for Nike, allows running for New Balance. And
a Puma. Look up Puma. It could be a spikes competition. You know, they're going over like who has the fastest spike. Yeah, I mean, like, yeah, it's I mean, we need innovation. Actually, you know, I thought, you know, I was thinking about this like recently, where you really have to think about track and field cannot solve this on its own. You have to go outside to other parts of sport where you can bring in people with different ideas. You might be upset about it, but it will help. I think about like the Big Ten conference in college football, and I know this is not track and field, but they got in an NBA guy, an NFL guy to be the commissioner. And if you think about the TV rights that they've changed and the $4 billion or how many money, $10 billion TV contracts they're initiating here for college sports is ridiculous. It's the same with the people who want to market global sport everywhere. You got to get the English Premier League people who sell English Premier League around the world. Obviously, it's a great spectacle, but what makes it different from La Liga or the Bundesliga or so on? You have to have a package that people can consume, and you got to get those people. You're not going to like them because they're going to tell you your sport runs in a different way, but you must understand that if you want to reach new markets, you have to think about innovative ways. And the answer is not necessarily to look within the governing council at World Athletics, because those guys don't know about anything else. I mean, I'm not dissing them, but you have to know where your limitations are. And when it comes to innovation, they don't have it. Yeah. Oh boy. What is that? Oh, did you see? I wanted to talk about this real quickly. Yesterday at USA, they're having the trials out there in New Mexico. Did you see Anna Hall with that ridiculous 5,004 points in the pentathlon? I mean, like, this is just like a few. Yeah, like it was like 9 points, I believe, off of the world record. I was like, all by ourselves, basically. You know, like this is, you know, some impressive stuff.
First thought in my head. I like it. The record is good, but who cares? Okay. It might sound harsh. It actually does sound harsh, really. But who cares? And I'm saying this in a more constructive critical way, that for her, she knows it's an achievement, but I mean, in terms of selling the achievement and telling people this is special, I mean, it doesn't come off really, to be honest. And I will also tell you that even within the sport itself, there is a there is a bit of knowledge gap between the people that follow track, which is the sprint, and follow the field event, and also follow the distance event.
Right.
There's a bit of knowledge gap in those threefold. So we just talked about the world cross country, and I can tell you for free that Nigerians, Jamaicans, Botswanas would almost not likely be interested in it. Exactly.
Yeah. They're not watching that.
Most likely, this is the reality. Diamond League starts now, except the Kenyans and Ethiopians are running in the distance races. They will most likely not watch the 100 or 200. They will talk of the Eastern Europeans with the field events, the Germans, the Polish guys. They're focusing on the field events. They will talk of the jumps. We're talking about Cuba. So there's still this disparity because there's so many things to cover. Now, very few people, maybe I'll probably say the Americans and the British guys do almost all of them. And that's because of their diverse nature and their... And
also resources probably, yeah.
Exactly, resources also comes into play. So the British sends a 17-man delegation to the world cross country. America also sends their delegation. They do the same thing for track, for sprint. They do the same thing for field. Kenya, maybe until recently, but Ethiopia is not sending anybody for the world relays. Who is going to run the world relays for Ethiopia? And you understand that because they don't have athletes there. So there's just that disparity there. I mean, I can't think of a solution to that, but I still feel there's a market for everybody. And it's World Athletics' job to bring it together. So I ask myself, what's the marketing department doing to promote the sports? I think that should be their core strength.
Yeah. No, I don't think they're doing a good enough job. They don't do well enough on social media or anything. I don't know. I mean, like, it's funny, you know. Like I don't know the answer to that, and I think a lot of people. Let me see if I can say this in an interesting way. I'm disappointed with Sebastian Coe because this is a former, athlete. He's a guy who understands coming from a country where he was a superstar in his own right, but clearly lower echelon when you think about footballers in England or other sports. And you would think he would channel some of that to think about how can we make track and field much more a global spectacle, Maybe he's on. Maybe you got to go into bed with some people who you don't want to. You need to talk to FIFA or I don't know, right? It can't work. We see this, and you and I talk, and a few people around the world who really are dedicated track and field fans, but the sport is bigger than that, and it should be bigger than that. It's the easiest access sport in terms of there's some things you will excel on and some things you can't because you don't have you won't be a great pole vaulter if someone can't get you a proper pole vaulting mat and the kind of facilities you need. But the thing about track and field, and I know I'm opining too much too, is that it's so good for everybody type, right? Like if you're a strong person and as long as you have some explosiveness,
fast person,
give you a shot put or a discus or a hammer, but I don't know. I mean, like until track and field, I don't know if track and field needs to break in bigger in the United States, I still look at a lot of talented
another thought popped up in my head, and I'm thinking, let them have a marketing department for each of these specialties we just mentioned. For the strong guys, which is the throws, for the jump guys, or let's just generalize and say for the sprint, the field event, and distance event.
You there?
Yeah, so
I think I lost it a little bit.
Yeah, I can hear you. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So I like I was saying, I think they should have a marketing department for these three major aspects of it: the sprint, the field, and the distance events. And let them come up with innovative ideas to sell the sport itself. It's a mass participation sport from all cadets, and it's as its target audience. And they should begin to think of innovative ways, get out of their conservative shell. Let outsiders invest in the sport itself. The only sort of investment we get in the sport is with organization of particular meet. and that alone cannot sell the sport. So you've got the Dubai Marathon pumping $2-3 million into their marathon. Them also the World Championships once before. Same thing with some of the world major marathons, focusing on how to develop their own marathon race itself, but nothing as a collective that will bring people together from all cadets. So they have to find a way of marketing each of them together, not as individual events.
No, I agree. And you think about it, we're still heavily dependent on the Olympics for mass appeal. And if that's what you're doing, then you fail tremendously. And as you were saying that, Deji, I was thinking, we're living through a period with some of the all-time greats in those events that we can't even figure out a way to capitalize, like a Ryan Krauser. We may never see the likes again, right? Like for a very long time. A Yulimar Rojas. It's like, what? And there is absolutely nothing that we're doing. What's that woman from Poland, Wadowski, for how many years she's winning the hammer? There's just so many things that happen that they haven't capitalized on. You and I talked about how the sport failed to capitalize under the Usain years. I think it's not even a critique. No, I think it's just negligible. Like it's negligence rather at the highest level, right? Like, yeah. But
absolute negligence. Absolute negligence.
Yeah. But I don't know. This is a lot of stuff happening. There's a bunch of national championships this weekend, so we won't be able to get to see anything else. But yeah, it's always good catching up with you, Deji. We know we've been on this for like an hour and a half. Well, an hour and 14 minutes, and I know it's late there in Nigeria. So, but we got to do this more often. We got to do this on a live.
Definitely.
Get everybody. If you can get this set up all the time, we could run the world, right?
Definitely. So many things to talk about, especially when the outdoor season starts again. So many conversations.
Yeah, I'm excited for all the stuff that's gonna happen. But yeah, we'll try to catch up soon, and hopefully, we'll see some good stuff. And we're waiting for the big guns to come out. The Shelley and Fraser Price. I saw a report coming out of Jamaica. They were asking for Oblique Seville. They were asking Coach Glenn Mills, and he was like, "We haven't decided yet. Just hold your horses." Basically, they'll do it when the time is right. So I think there is a notion of like, some athletes don't need to come out this early. And I know that I'm reflecting on that, I even think more deeply about the Ferdinand Omanyala running around the planet on a 60-meter thing. It's even more instructive, right? Because what is he doing, right, when the goal is to go outdoor? And the 100 meters should be exciting this year. I'm looking for, hopefully, we'll see. But yeah, we'll definitely catch up, Deji. I mean, we'll link some of your pieces. What are you putting up recently? You just had that Divine piece. You're gonna put up a piece later today.
Yeah, I put up Oduduru. Some of the conversation we had, I opined on some of them. Favour Ofili, Femke Bol, Lyles. Just do some short pieces and put them into one place, and I call them Deji's doodles, and just have my own thoughts about them going into the outdoor season. I'll come up with a couple, then a couple of thoughts on the World Cross Championships too again this year, across country.
Yeah. All right. Well, I appreciate you all the time, and we'll definitely catch up soon. Who knows? It might be next weekend.
Looking forward to it anytime.
Yeah.